Welcome to One-on-One with Colette Linden. I'm here today with another mayor candidate, and everyone knows him, Matthew Shoemaker.
Pleased to be here.
Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Yourself?
Very well, thank you very much. You are no stranger to the building behind us on the screen. It's different interviewing current members of council and those who are coming in. We have some younger candidates running for councillor this year, a 19-year-old, and that's great to see. Voter engagement hopefully will be elevated a little bit more and engage that younger generation. So it's a nice mix of people sitting in beside me. So welcome again, and congratulations on your run for mayor.
Thank you.
So tell me, how's it been?
It's been busy. Yeah. I've been door knocking for about 3 months now, and getting together the platform, and after meeting with the community members, stakeholders, and built up over ideas over the course of my couple of terms, and it's all culminated in the release of my platform yesterday, and hopefully that'll show the community that I've got a serious plan to tackle the serious issues that we've got in our community, and that I'm ready to serve as their mayor on October 24th.
Yes, okay. Now, if you don't mind, I would love to go through what you released yesterday. We will probably be talking about some current situations from your last council meeting, and what I'll be very perfectly honest with you. You know that what the contentious issues that have struck a nerve in a lot of community members. So in the fairness and in the name of transparency, which I feel municipal government should be running on, I want to ask you those questions. So feel free to answer them at how you wish. But let's talk a little bit. You know what? You want to start with your platform before I grill you?
I'm happy to.
Okay. That's good. I'm not grilling you. Let's talk about your platform.
Well, Plan for Progress was released yesterday, which was September 21st. And it sets out, over the course of numerous pages, ideas on a number of key areas. So affordability and taxes, the opioid pandemic or epidemic, I would say, that we are suffering under, the enhancements of quality of life. Mental health challenges is hand in hand with the addictions crisis that we're facing, economic development, and the environment. So, as well as reconciliation and good neighborly relationships with our American neighbors as well. So,
you know what, Matthew, you are the first person to bring that up, and many staff here. I know Mike, the producer, Mike is very much the same as me. We engage with our neighbors so much. Do we do anything with them as far as partnerships and what we share a water, the body of water there. So there's border patrol issues, so that's great that that's on your list. So I do want to get to that. Tell me a little bit about, how you launched it yesterday, what your differences are. Is it everything that you've just put in place now, or you just giving more information?
Yeah, so many of the items in here had not previously been announced. So there is new platform planks in here that I hadn't previously put out. But the ones that I had previously put out on housing, on addictions, on affordability, are also in here. So it's a culmination of things I had previously announced and a number of things that had not previously been announced. So I had an event at the machine shop yesterday. Mayor Debbie Amoroso, former Mayor Debbie Amoroso, endorsed me. At a previous event that I had held, former Mayor Steve Butland had endorsed me as well. So I'm grateful for the support of the two people that I've had support from, that have previously sat in the chair and know what the job entails and thinks that I am the best person to do it on a go-forward basis. I'm very grateful for their support.
Absolutely. And Matthew, as you know, many people are coming through the studio. And again, thank you to everyone thus far. But I want to know the plan and the processes and the procedures. I'm going to ask you questions. I don't, you can promise greener grass and bluer skies. Sure, you can do that. But when you're elected, what happens to those promises? So why don't you unveil one of your plans for affordability?
Affordability. Yeah. Affordability. We've got there's a number of things that play into affordability. So over the course of my terms on council, I should say, I have been able to save over $2 million in taxpayer dollars from being added to the budget. So I have a proven record on savings that will bring down tax increases. other candidates are promising, tax freezes or that they won't spend money here or won't spend money there. Check my website out, MatthewShoemaker.ca. I have highlighted under my resolutions every budget resolution that I've ever brought, plus the savings that it has achieved. So I've proposed over $3 million in savings. Over $2 million has been accepted by council as a whole. And so I've got a record on affordability that the others cannot match. There's also a proposal to provide tax relief for those in the most dire economic need. If you lose your job or if you have a serious health issue, there is a provision in the Municipal Act that allows the municipality to reduce or waive your taxes. It's similar in nature to when your house, when there's a fire at someone's house. If there's a fire at someone's house, there's a process they can go through to reduce their taxes, because obviously they're not paying taxes on the value of what used to be there, right? So if you are severely injured or suffering under economic circumstances like the ever increasing cost of things because of inflation, there's a proposal in here to assist those people with a reduced tax burden. So, you said it in your intro. People will promise greener grass and bluer skies. Check my plan out, A Plan for Progress. It has specific proposals in there to save people money. Okay, great. The opioid crisis, we'll call it, which I think it could be deemed a crisis. We were receiving emails from APH saying there has been an accelerated amount of people who are dying and naproxen use, are giving them their drugs to revive them. When does that? How long are our paramedics going to have to do that? Because it's becoming an issue. It is a crisis. So how are we even going to step in that right direction? And I know other municipalities are also suffering from this affliction. I know that with the AMO conference that there were plenty of delegations lobbying to the provincial government for the funding, for support from the provincial government. Do you feel that is one way in which the Sault Ste. Marie will go? Can I hear more about your plan on opioids? Definitely, the continued lobbying of the province and the federal government on mental health and addictions needs to be a key part of the recipe. But it's not the only thing we can do. Municipal capital funding for the establishment of a supervised consumption site is at the top of my list if I'm elected in the fall. And the way it works, so everybody knows that healthcare funding is provincially paid for. So the city cannot just say, we're going to fund the hospital X number of dollars per year. It's not, first off, it's not permissible. Second off, it's not our jurisdiction. However, what we can do is what our neighboring municipalities have done in Sudbury and Timmins and North Bay. They have put municipal dollars into establishing a supervised consumption site. So they either buy this property and pay for the renovations, or they've got a property that they can renovate and put into place that will serve as a supervised consumption site. We haven't done that. We haven't put any money into a supervised consumption site, and if I am elected, that will be my top priority. Once the building is all set to go, the lights are on, the desks are in place, the province picks up the operating costs of that. But until it's all set up and established the way the province wants it, they won't operate it. So we need to do the legwork on getting that building established so that we can have a supervised consumption site in town. So that's part one of how I plan to assist with the crisis that we're facing. The second is a community day of action and awareness. So how to use naloxone, stories of folks who have suffered the consequences either in their family or themselves of opioid use or abuse. And it's these are things that the community has to be aware of in order to be able to get to a place where we want to be, so that we can provide assistance. And then if we've got a drug rehabilitation center going in at the old Sioux Star building. Once that's in place, when folks come out of that rehabilitation program, we have to offer the supports at a municipal level
Yes.
through the DSAB for housing, for employment, for for social support, so that they don't end up back where they in the position that got them there in the first place.
I had a counselor in here today as well, and he mentioned it was the first that I had heard of back on track, like a late maybe teaching a trade or something, having something tangible, or giving them that stepping stone so that when they're coming out, they're not going back to that group. Perhaps now that they have something to look forward to educate them in a different way that perhaps they've been educated before.
If you, I'm no expert in the social services field, but as I understand it, if you bring someone through a rehabilitation program and put them back into the circle or the social setting that caused them or that was part of their previous life, the chances of them, relapsing are substantially higher than if you put them into an employment track or a housing track or offer those services to them to, reestablish themselves as healthy community members.
That's right. So, it's an issue that does affect the entire city, because it doesn't matter what pocket of Sault Ste. Marie you live in or how much is in your bank account. Addiction afflicts. It's not going to pick and choose. Everyone could be in the harm's way of that, or have a son or daughter or something. It seems to be attacking families from every pocket. So it is an issue that is going to impact the city, and it has, and it's also impacting with crime. What are your thoughts on crime control? Do we have enough police officers? Are we doing enough policing? What is your stance on the police building being relocated?
Well,
there was 5 questions in one there. So.
I got the gist of where you're going. Okay. I'll say first off, I've served on the police service board for just over a year now, pretty close to a year anyways. And in that time, I have pushed for the relocation of the police service building. The police building is pushing, it's over 50 years old. And, when buildings of that nature get to an age where they're not accessible, they've been pieced together over time with an addition here, an addition there. The heating system does not work for the whole building seamlessly. Obviously, in a building like that, dispatch is critical, and it has to be on its own power source and have a backup power source uninterrupted, so that if the power goes out, there's no interruption in the 911 service. Our building doesn't have almost any of those features, and it has all those problems that I just named.
Oh, okay.
So we need a new building.
Okay.
So if we're going to build a new building, which we're going to have to sooner or later, where's the best spot to put it? The best spot to put it is where it will provide the best community benefit, which is in an area we're trying to revitalize, which is the downtown. So whether that's the full station, because I know there are certain requirements there. You can't be within a floodplain, and you have to have access to multiple entrances and exits. But we should put a portion or all of the building downtown, period. That's my proposal from the get-go. A number of people have jumped on board since I proposed it, but it was initially something that I wrote a letter to the editor about, that Sioux Online ran a number of months ago, and you can find that also on my website, MatthewShoemaker.ca. With respect to the crime and policing service, the actual service that's offered, because the building's only houses the service. The service is what is critical to the community. I've supported the addition of 3 new police officers, which the police board approved a month or maybe 2 ago. Those people have been hired. There's, I believe, going to be a request for additional officers next year. I will support that if I'm reelected in the fall, because our base has not increased in 22 years until we increased it a couple months ago. Our base number of police officers has not increased in 22 years, but the number of calls has increased exponentially in that same period of time. So we have the same number of people dealing with a much more acute problem. And that's why I think that there is a need for additional police service members, and have supported that recently, and will continue to if I'm reelected in the fall.
Okay, I that's great that you're on board with that. This was not me, by no means am I pointing fingers at the police services. They do a wonderful job. I just feel like maybe we might need a little bit more in this instance because of everything, all the crime that's going on. So let's talk about it. So we relocate the building to the downtown core and revitalizing and spending some money to make money, you've got to do. But what about the other half of the city? I mean, because right now it's centrally located, correct? So I see both points, and I'm even playing a little bit of devil's advocate. But what about if they get caught at a train? We all know that there's that one train that everyone in the city has been sitting and thinking, oh man, that would be one red flag for me.
Yeah, and that's why I think that it needs to be considered what the location is, whether it's the whole service or whether it's a precinct of the service. And so we have to look at those things. Right. Is it, we've got we've got 4 fire service stations. Yeah. We've got multiple ambulance stations, but we've got 1 police station. And right now you've got the same issue with the train if they need to get downtown from second line. Right. If there's a train, there's an issue. So it's all about determining what the best place is for it. But as a starting point, I would say a presence downtown is a must. So in finding the requirements, presence downtown is at the top of the list, in my opinion. Yeah,
because, you see patrolling and you will think, well, I would hope people would think twice about committing a crime. Okay, well, let's, what else do you have in here in this package there? I mean, I could sit here and talk about that a little bit.
There's
you've got a lot here.
Yes, I've got it. Yes, as Colette's mentioned, 14-page document, all available on my website. Yeah. There's a housing plan to ensure that we have additional housing built, which will, in reality, improve the affordability in town for housing. So there is a plan in here to financially support projects like the Legion and Trinity Towers, where they're taking an underutilized piece of property and they're exponentially increasing the use of that property. So the Legion, huge swath of land on Great Northern Road, housed just the Legion building, a banquet, some offices, a banquet hall, some offices, a museum. However, now it's going to house the Legion, which is a banquet hall, offices, museum, plus 107 living units. So we've taken the same piece of property, added 100 units, 100 plus units onto it. They've done the same thing, or they're doing the same thing, I should say, at Trinity Towers across from Arby's on Northern Avenue.
Yes.
If we can get churches in town, charities, like I'm thinking the Salvation Army or the John Howard Society or the Soup Kitchen, to use their pieces of property, the Marconi, for example, which is, again, a huge piece of property, underutilized, to add residential aspects to their building. What we're doing is not only increasing the housing stock in town, which levels off prices or even could bring them down if we get enough places built, but it also is more efficient for the use of municipal services. You're already plowing the street, so why not put more people on that same piece of street that you're already plowing? You're already picking up the garbage there, so why not put more people there where you're already giving those services too? So it makes a lot of sense from a number of perspectives.
And I actually do want to go back a little bit to one comment I made, just to clear that up. The relocation of the police building, I understand it's aging infrastructure and there are AODA requirements, and to meet those requirements, sometimes taking an already piece of infrastructure to ensure that you are following up to code or up to the new, because it's a significant difference, the doorways and elevators and you name it, right? So I just wanted to add that in when you just brought up the AODA requirements, that is something that you need to take into consideration as well when tendering a project out.
The AODA is a staged piece of legislation. So over time, public buildings like the police station, which is owned by the municipality, City Hall, all these buildings have to become compliant. So they have to have accessible doorways, accessible hallways, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes, like you say, it will cost us just as much to retrofit that building as it would to build a new one.
Sorry to jump back there, but I meant to mention that too. That's why I said I do see both points, because You know, the Aoda requirements kind of, I always feel for the small business owner. You know, they had to deal with it, you know, to make these changes and whatnot. And depending on how many people you have working there, what your business is and whatnot, right?
And the staged approach implemented the private sector business aspect of it at the outside end. So they have the most time to come into compliance with it.
Okay, great. Okay, hit me with another one.
Okay, well, there's also a quality of life improvements. So I, you know, everybody knows that I voted against the relocation of the mill market and voted against the expenditure on the downtown plaza.
Oh, there was an expenditure?
There was not just an expenditure. The project came back at least 3 or 4 times, maybe 5, with increased budgets. Every single one of those times, I opposed it. I argued against it. I challenged my fellow councillors to tell me where the limit was on spending, because none of them ever, well, not none of them, I should say. The ones who voted in favor of it.
2 others, I believe that.
The ones who voted in favor of it never once said, I've reached my limit. I've reached my limit. And that is a key aspect of governing. You have to be able to say, we want to see this project move forward, but it has to be done at this price or within this envelope, because there is not an endless amount of money. And that's what I think the current council didn't get right about the mill market and the downtown plaza.
I agree. And it's, I agree. Oh, keep going.
We'll get there. But you were asking about my proposals for quality of life improvements. So there are things in town that have significant public support. The hub trail, the boardwalk, the cultural attractions that we have, like the old Stonehouse, the Bush Plane, the museum, the law. You know, everybody loves the Sulaks, the art gallery.
Yes.
So expansion of the hub trail, I think, is a key one in my platform.
Absolutely.
There has been effort on my part. I've proposed and will continue to propose that there be a link from the hub trail, which currently ends at around Huron Street, to James Street, and that would reconnect the James Street neighborhood to the downtown. When Carmen's Way went in, it really split that neighborhood off from, you know, it's very centrally located, but it feels far away now that Carmen's Way is in place.
It's like, well, you're going right, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's
passing truck traffic, and there's, you know, all kinds of vehicles on it, fairly high speed. So reconnecting the James Street neighborhood with the downtown with the hub trail link is my top quality of life priority. Now, that's not the top priority overall, but it's the top quality of life priority. And then the re-implementation or the reconstruction, if you can call it that, of the boardwalk section next to what used to be Docks and is now Montana's. There's a section of the boardwalk there that runs through the marina. Used to be. And it hasn't been there for about 10 years because there was some structural problems with it. This council just reallocated the money that was going to go into that project to the downtown plaza. So that is one that I want to see done early on in the next term. And then I've pushed for it for a number of years, a downtown trolley on a pilot project basis. So I think that when tour boats come off at the Bondar tent and they want to get to the Bush Plane, or they want to go to the old Stonehouse, you probably won't get those people all the way to the other side of the downtown, to the Canal District, to the locks. However, if you had a hop-on, hop-off trolley, it would save them significant travel time, and it's an attraction in and of itself, right? You hop on the trolley, you end up at you start at the art gallery, you end up at the Bush Plane, at the old Stonehouse, you go to the museum after you hop back on it, you go to the Canal District, you go to the locks and back. And there are partners that will be willing to provide funding for this on a pilot basis. I'm thinking businesses in town or Parks Canada and the municipality, of course, to see if it works. And if it does, great. We can determine whether we want to implement it on a full-time basis. If not, at least we've tried and we've seen what, you know, whether or not the idea has any merit.
You're proposing something that will not cost much to the taxpayer?
It'll be a one-time expense for a year or two pilot program to see if it works. But then if it does work, we can implement it, and then it draws in more tourists, or it gets tourists who are already here to spend more money at more of our locations. So it could be revenue neutral if you're getting people to spend more at the old Stonehouse, at the museum, at the at the art gallery. That's right. That's right.
Okay, good. I like that. Yeah.
So that's quality of life.
Okay.
I also want to see, expansion of the services that are offered at Bellevue Park. So I've said in here that I want to see the addition of beach-like activities. So whether that's beach volleyball courts or an area to sunbathe, Toronto's got a couple of parks that are non-swimming. They're sand areas. People go there, they relax, they read a book, they sit under an umbrella, they play some beach volleyball. It's not a beach in the traditional sense where you can hop into the water like Pointe de Chêne is, but it's an area that you can have a beach environment kind of right in the downtown core, and I think that would be a way to amp up the use of Bellevue Park even more. It's already well used, but I think it would be a great addition.
You brought up Pointe de Chêne. As we know, last year, 2 years ago now, closing the park was not well received by the community. Have you still received negative? What kind of information or responses are you receiving now that it wasn't open for the weekend or for overnight? And would you revisit it?
I wouldn't revisit it. I think that a better use of the property is an expansion of the public beach that's there. That would be my preference. But we know there are water, for a number of reasons, I don't support reopening it. One, a significant expenditure on the water treatment or fixing the water problem. However, I have proposed and did get approved a beach bus that runs from the downtown and from Sault College to Pointe de Chêne. Over 600 people used that bus this year.
I was going to say, I thought that I wrote the article.
A very big success.
Yeah.
And that gets people, Pointe de Chêne Beach is the only municipally owned beach that we've got. Notwithstanding that I want to add some sand at Bellevue Park for some activities. It's the only beach where you can hop in the water, lay on the sand, have a barbecue, etc. And it's a jewel that we need to, try and get the most use out of. And that's why I think the beach bus was great to bring 600 families who might not have otherwise gotten to the beach.
Not everybody has a reliable vehicle.
That's right. And it's far. That's a good jaunt out there. The beach bus is a way to get those people to Pointe de Chêne. And so I would want to see the beach expanded as opposed to a return of the day park.
Okay, good. All right. Where else? That's
quality of life. We've got economic development. I mean, we're hopping around here a little bit. But from an economic development perspective, we've got a community development fund, and it's $700,000 or $800,000, but it's got a number of streams in it. Green initiatives, economic development, cultural funding, and the economic development fund within that community development fund is $500,000. What I want to see over the course of the term is that increased. So that fund gets used, for example, when Tenaris was consolidating their operations here in Sault Ste. Marie, and now we've got more people working at Tenaris. Major renovation going on there. You can see from the street it looks amazing, and I think they're just about ready to roll out the turn on the on switch on the operations there. So they applied to the city for funding, $1 million, I believe it was, from our economic development fund, and we had to give it to them over the course of 2 years because our economic development fund is not that much. It doesn't have that much in it. So what I want to see is an increased, beefed up economic development fund so that we can, pounce on those opportunities when they present themselves. We should be and ought to be helping expand and retain the businesses that are here, and using the money and the levers at our disposal to make that happen or to push it in the right direction. That's where I think that from an economic development standpoint, it makes sense. And I've gone after every economic development opportunity that has been presented to us. I've supported them all. Many people will remember that I was the person who pushed for the Amazon bid that the city did.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously that was not successful. However, what it was is I think it showed the community that we need to, it showed really, because it had significant public support, it showed our economic development team that there is a yearning in town to go after every opportunity you can.
Yeah.
And it's why I've pushed so hard on the OLG to relocate all their jobs here. I've said that for years. And as mayor, that will be, that's the lowest hanging fruit, in my opinion. Every single OLG job should be located at the head office in Sault Ste. Marie. And these are the types of opportunity that we need our economic development fund for. So if it requires, an incentive to have the OLG here, or obviously Amazon would have been world changing, but things like Tenaris. I mean, these are the opportunities we have to capitalize on when they present itself.
And I do remember the Amazon project, but why wouldn't they? I mean, really, the real estate costs are significantly less. There's a lot of pluses about being in Sault Ste. Marie. I am born and raised in Hamilton. I've only been here for 3 years. I never thought I'd move to Northern Ontario, and will never move back to Southern Ontario. So there are still struggles when you're coming from Southern Ontario to Northern Ontario, because there is a club feeling of there's a tight knit family there, and perhaps a newbie sometimes isn't very well received. And I did receive that.
Well, I for sure. I think there's the social aspect of getting into the community versus the other aspects, right? But when you establish a business here, or decide to move your business from Southern Ontario to Sault Ste. Marie, I can guarantee you, your employees are going to be happier. They're going to have more money in their pocket because they're going to sell their house down south and move up here to a more affordable place. They are going to have better quality of life because in the winter, in the summer, there's all kinds of activities here. This is the pitch that a number of people have made for a number of years, and that we have to get the message out that not only is this a great place to establish your business, that's one aspect of it, but in this day and age, this is a great place that even if you work for business X or business Y, you can work for them from here. So it's not just about going after the business, it's about going after the worker themselves as well.
Kit Matthew, I'm sorry, I know we have to wrap it up soon. I want to thank you for presenting your platform. I congratulate you on all your success as a councillor for 8 years.
Well, I would just say that I've got this platform as I've developed the platform as a way to hold myself accountable so that people can see what I'll do if I'm elected. My fellow candidates haven't put anything out like this, and so you will get a lot of rhetoric from them. The grass will be greener, the sky will be bluer, but they have not shown how they will do that. This shows how I will do the things I've promised to do if I'm elected.
Yeah, and I do specifically ask the question, what are you going to propose, but also how? So the how is very important. So thank you for answering that today. And again, and saving the city $2 million thus far. Thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have today for One-on-One with Colette Linden. Have a great afternoon.